I had pulmonary issues from the day that I was born. So my entire childhood, I knew that I had lung disease. Some of the doctors that treated me told my mom, she'll never be able to keep up with other kids. She'll never be able to do all the things that other kids are doing. And my mom did a very smart thing. She never told me that. My lung disease progressed significantly, especially as I got into my adult years. I continued to practice because I loved it. And I got a lot of fulfillment from feeling like I was giving back to the world, giving back to my community. So giving up my practice of medicine wasn't something that I ever even considered. Towards the end, my lung disease had progressed to the point where I was really significantly limited. I was on oxygen 24/7, but I continued to work full-time all the way to the end.
She never talked about it. She always asked about you first and what your goals and dreams are.
The signs and symptoms of what she looked like, I think everyone had a good idea what was going on. But in the workplace, it was never really discussed. Like, our focus was always entirely on taking care of the patients.
As soon as I walked into the hospital, the nurses would bring me one of those big oxygen tanks and sit it beside my desk, and I would drag it around the emergency department with me. I always took my oxygen off before I went into a patient room, not because I was embarrassed about the fact that I was on oxygen. I didn't want them to think that I was weak and that I couldn't provide them their best care. So I would slip my nasal cannula off, leave it outside the door, walk into the patient room, and as soon as I walked back, I'd put my nasal cannula back on and walk away with my oxygen. And I continued with that, working right up the night before I ended up going into the hospital for my transplant. Yeah, when I look back on it, I'm kind of amazed that I got to that point, and I'm kind of amazed that I managed to pull it off. And now I'm gonna get choked up, blah! So, it's still kind of hard to talk about. My lung transplant actually happened on Super Bowl Sunday 2017. My husband says that I'm lucky that the Colts weren't playing that year because he would have had a really hard time deciding whether he was at my bedside or at the Super Bowl game. As a transplant recipient, being on these immune-compromising medications makes me very susceptible to diseases. Even viruses can be deadly. Being a doctor, being around sick people is part of the job, and I can't do that anymore. So rather than just living the rest of my life retired on disability, I worked on finding ways that I could work with the IU School of Medicine, training young medical students who are just starting to define their career, helping them shape their path.
Pre and post-transplant, she's always been extremely motivating.
And that's, all this medical stuff aside, she's been a leader in our field, and this just adds on top of it, to be honest.
I'm incredibly grateful to my donor and donor family. Without their ultimate gift, I would not have the ability to be sitting here today and to be continuing on. A lot of people look at something like I do and consider that to be heroic. I look at people who have made the decision to be an organ donor as the true heroes.